Hello, my friends. Just yesterday, there was at least one piece of good news about negotiations and a small hope that Russia might have finally realized this war needs to end. And already today, after one bit of good news, we get hit with 10 bad ones. So basically, business as usual. Let's start with the fact that the White House has denied the Kremlin's claims that a meeting is already scheduled to happen in the coming days. The White House denied the Kremlin's statements that a meeting between Trump and Putin has already been agreed upon. Moreover, for direct talks with Trump, Putin must first meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, something the Kremlin is still not ready to do, the White House added. Shortly after, Trump contradicted that requirement and said that, in fact, Putin doesn't have to meet with Zelensky before meeting with him. Putin doesn't need to meet with Zelensky to meet with Trump, the US president said in response to a reporter's question at the White House. But there are still no specific dates for when Trump will actually meet with Putin. And today is already the 8th, the exact date Trump had promised to impose sanctions. Journalists asked him whether his ultimatum is still valid. That will depend on him. Trump on his deadline for Putin. The US president responded to a reporter's question about the deadline for the Kremlin dictator said that whether or not the deadline holds depends on Putin. Trump also added that the White House is disappointed in him. As we can see, Trump once again isn't imposing any sanctions. Now he's supposedly waiting for a meeting with Putin. In this way, Putin has once again managed to buy himself more time. And if he actually manages to strike a deal with Trump to avoid the sanctions altogether, that would be a complete disaster. And it looks like that's exactly what Putin is trying to do. Meanwhile, Trump continues to say he'll do everything to stop the war. Putin wants to meet with me, and I'll do everything I can to stop the killing. Trump. The US president was responding to a reporter's question about the possible meeting with the Russian dictator and said he'll do everything possible to stop the killing. He also said he doesn't like waiting around because it's disgraceful. In addition, the US president repeated that up to 5,000 soldiers die every week on the front lines and added that there are also civilian casualties as a result of the shelling. So, friends, let me know what you think in the comments. It really looks like Putin is once again trying to trick Trump. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to carry out operations on Russian territory. Late last night, Russians started reporting once again that FPV drones were being launched from vehicles and striking targets. This time it happened in the Saratov region. Krasny Kut, Saratov region. Reports of FPV launches from a vehicle, just like on June 1st, targeting airfields. Stay cautious. However, as of the time of this video, it's still unclear what exactly was hit, so for now we are waiting for more information. At the same time, overnight, Russia once again tried to attack Kyiv region, and there were reports of strikes in the areas of Irpin and Bucha. At least 10 powerful explosions were heard across the cities. Overall, it seems like every time Putin claims he's ready for peace talks, new strikes on Kyiv region immediately follow. And Syrsky said that Russia must be defeated.
Do you see this war ending anytime soon?
Well, I believe it must end in a way that benefits us. And we must do everything necessary to make that happen. That means we have to win, not retreat. We must inflict such losses on the enemy that they agree to end this war not from a position of strength, but on our terms. That is critically important for us right now.
Friends, be sure to share your opinion in the comments. Now, let's move to the front line, and today we'll start right at the border. Russian forces are trying to turn the tide here in order to advance further into Ukrainian territory. And that's why they are carrying out assaults in the area of Oleksiivka and trying to break through the border. Offensive activity is also being reported near the village of Pavlivka, close to Tyotkina. And Syrskyi has essentially admitted that the Russians planned the Kursk operation better, and that's why they were able to push Ukrainian forces out of Russian territory.
There was little intel that they could use the pipelines, but there were orders to keep key sections under control of areas where they might break through. These orders were given, but perhaps somewhere we failed to keep close enough watch, or maybe we underestimated the boldness of their actions. This all happened as part of a complex operation. They were advancing, some forces were moving through the pipeline, and they had clearly prepared for this in detail, keeping it all secret. At the same time, they were launching an offensive from multiple directions, particularly in the Sudza sector. So during these combat operations, we likely shifted our focus from the pipeline, which they took advantage of.
And that's what made the withdrawal of our forces so difficult.
Of course, they ended up getting behind our lines just as our troops were starting to pull back and the frontal assault was intensifying. That had a major impact.
So, when the Russians were pushing forward, Ukrainian forces had to retreat under pressure and were met by Russian troops already waiting behind them. I think the result is obvious to everyone. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, moving to the Kharkiv direction. So far, Russian forces haven't launched any new assaults here. Fighting is currently limited to the city of Vovchansk, but the front line remains unchanged, and Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks. In the Dvorichna direction, all Russian attacks have currently stopped, but they're preparing for new assaults. Shelling continues, and additional reserves are being brought in. In the Kupiansk direction, there is intense activity. The Russians are trying to storm Tyshenivka, pushing through Redkivka toward Kupiansk. Fierce fighting is ongoing for Holubivka, and they're also attempting to advance on Kovalivka. The situation here is difficult, and Russian sources are already claiming they've established a foothold in Kupiansk. However, according to official Ukrainian sources, the fighting is still ongoing and there have been no confirmed changes along the front line. In the Borova direction, the Russians are assaulting Boguslavka and Nova Krugliakivka. However, aside from that, there haven't been any major changes in this area, and Ukrainian forces have been able to repel all attacks. In the Lyman direction, Russian troops are attacking the settlements of Zarichne, Shandrigolove, and Seredny. They're also trying to break through near Karpivka and closer to Glushenkove. Heavy shelling continues here, and FPV drones are actively operating, making the situation extremely tense. Despite all of this, the front line remains stable for now. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces are trying to break through near Grigorivka, Verkhnyokamensky, Vyimka, and Pereizny. The activity here remains extremely high, and the Russians are desperately pushing toward Siversk, using heavy shelling to support the advance. However, since their recent breakthrough near Serebryanka a few days ago, they haven't made any new gains. For now, Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks. In the Kostantinivka direction, Russian troops are assaulting Oleksandro Shultine, Sherbinivka, and Katerinivka. They're also trying to expand the territory they control around Yablonivka and Alexandro Kalinove. Fighting also continues for Rusin Yar and Poltavka. Russian sources have begun claiming that these villages are already under their control. But so far, there is no confirmation of this, so we'll wait and see how the situation develops. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian forces continue the assaults on Volodymyrivka, pushing forward near Mayak, and there are reports of attacks and sabotage reconnaissance groups operating around the city of Rodinsk. Additionally, fighting continues near Novoekonomichne, and Russian troops are approaching the outskirts of Myrnograd, assaulting Lysivka and Udachne, and pushing toward the Pokrovsk area. Russian forces also keep striking Dobropilla. Yesterday, new photos and videos emerged of another missile attack. The destruction of cities continues. In the Novopavlivka direction, Russian troops are trying to break through near the village of Zeleny Kut across open fields, while also assaulting Filia, Zeleny High, and Voskresenka. This situation remains extremely difficult, but for now, Ukrainian forces are holding the line and occasionally launching successful counterattacks. As a result, the front line here remains unchanged. In the Velika Novosilka direction, Russian forces are attempting to break through near Malievka and are assaulting Tymyrivka. However, activity here remains relatively low, and the Russians haven't achieved any new successes. In the Zaporizhia direction, Russian troops continue shelling Stepnohirsk, but there have been no reports of new assaults. Over the past 24 hours, the front line has remained unchanged. In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue attacks on the islands and shell the right bank, but so far they haven't managed to advance further, and the front line hasn't changed in the past 24 hours. However, due to the worsening situation, evacuation calls from Kherson have already begun. Meanwhile, India made a statement regarding Trump's new tariffs. After Trump's new tariffs on India, Modi said he would have to pay a high price. I know I will have to pay a high price, but I'm ready. India is ready, he said. Modi's statement came after US President Donald Trump imposed an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods due to India's purchase of Russian oil. This caused total tariffs on some India products to reach 50%. Although Modi didn't mention the US president by name, it was clear he was talking about American tariffs. Thus, Russia's partners are proven to be quite strong and are not rushing to give up trade with Russia. Friends, please share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.